Hi everyone, Michael here. Welcome to my second video tutorial. Today we'll be installing Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015. NAV is one of Microsoft's ERP systems, and it's actually pretty simple to install. The installation we're doing today will be on two servers. One is the SQL server and the other one will be the NAS server, which is the NAV application server. You can find all the relevant downloads and links in the video description, and if you have any questions you can write them in the comment section. Okay, so we're gonna start the SQL Server installation. I downloaded the evaluation edition of SQL Server 2014 from Microsoft website, mounted the image, and we're gonna run setup. We're gonna go to installation and new server standalone installation. Okay, so I'm going to use the evaluation edition. As I mentioned, obviously if you have a product key you can use it. You can also use SQL Server Express edition, although I really not recommend you to do it, especially not in a production environment. So we're going to go with the evaluation. I'm going to accept the license terms. I'm going to get an error here because I don't have internet connection here, and it's asking me to update the setup files. I would advise you to click this here so you can update your setup. I'm going to skip it. Okay, so we have two warnings here. Not something serious. You can continue. So here we're going to choose the SQL Server feature installation because we want to choose the features we want to set up. Basically what we need for a NAV installation is only the database engine services and the management tools. I am going to install the instance to the default path. I'm going to change it so we can click next. Here I'm going to leave the default instance. It's MS SQL Server. I'm gonna hit next. So we're going to leave the collation as it is. We're not going to change it. What we are going to do here, I am going to change the service account to a domain account. You can leave it the default. You don't need to change it, but it is a best practice to use a service account. So I'm going to browse my Active Directory, and I already have a service account that I created earlier, called it SQL SVC. Going to choose it, type the password. I'm also usually I change the SQL Server agent to automatic, but that's just me. You don't need to do it. And we're going to click next. So here we are being asked who will be the administrator. I'm going to add my user. I'm working with the administrator. You can add the users that you want to have access to the SQL Server. The database data directories, I'm not going to change those. Also, in a production environment, I would advise you to change them to different drives. Physical drives would be best for I/O performance. But this is just a test installation, so I'm going to leave it as it is, and we're going to hit next. So this is the summary of the installation. Looks good. I'm going to click install. So this is it for the SQL Server. I'm going to stop the recording and we're going to get back when this is finished. Okay, SQL Server is installed. As you can see, this was a very swift installation. If you want to know more details about the SQL Server installation, I would advise you to go through the setup documentation for Microsoft. But for our purpose, this is enough. So it was a quick and fast installation. So we're going to close this and we're going to go to the NAV server. Alright, so we're going to start the NAV installation. I have my setup files here. You can download the NAV installation from Microsoft website, but you will need a customer source account. If you don't have one, you can actually get the setup files from other sources. I am going to also add it to the download links in the video description. So this is the setup. Obviously, we're going to run a setup file. You're going to click next, accept the license agreement. Okay, so this is a demo installation. I don't really like it, and I'm not advising you to use this. So we're going to choose the installation option, the custom one, and here you can choose from several options. You have the client installation, server, developer. What we are going to do is use the custom installation, in which we can choose all the roles that we want to have in our installation. So what we are going to install here is the client, okay, also the development environment. We're going to need this, the administration tool, the server. Now we are not going to install the SQL Server database component. What this thing here does is it actually installs SQL Express Edition. We don't want it because we installed the SQL Server Evaluation Edition. You can choose it if you're installing a NAV without SQL, and it will install and configure SQL Server Express Edition. So we're going to leave it like that. We are going to skip all those components. We do want the web server components because I'm going to show you how this works as well. Help server, we don't need it, and click once install, we also don't need it for this demonstration. So that's it. We're going to click next. Okay, so here we have the destination folder for the installation. I'm going to leave it default. You can choose, if you have a different drive, you can change it. Here are the server properties. So we are going to leave it at localhost, which is the server name. This is the service name that our installation will have. It creates a service, and this will be the service name. The service account, also you can use network services, but I would advise you to create a dedicated service account. I don't remember if I created one, so we are going to see. I'm going to go to DC service accounts. Okay, so we're going to create one because I don't have one. We're just going to create a regular user. We're going to call it NAV SVC. I'm going to leave it with password never expires. We don't want our service account to expire. I'm going to click finish. Let's get back to the installation. Okay, so I'm going to change it here, like I said, to SVC. Okay, so these are all the ports that the installation is going to use. You have the management service port, client service port, the SOAP service port, and the OData service port. I'm going to leave it default. There's no reason to change it unless you have another installation that is using the same ports or some other software that is using the same ports. And you can choose anything else if you want to. I like to leave it default. What else do we have here? So this is the credential type that we're going to use to authenticate with the client. I'm going to leave it with Windows authentication. I'm not going to change it. Okay, so here we're being asked for the SQL server name. So my SQL server name is just SQL. We use the default instance, so we are going to leave this blank. If you do have an instance name, so then you should type it here. And the SQL database, we actually didn't create it yet, but I'm going to give it already a name. Let's say we're going to call it NAV demo. You can change it later, but this is what we'll give them for the time being. So For our demo, we do not need to enter any details here. And we have the port here that we will use for the web server component. So I'm going to leave it at 8080. I'm not going to change it. And this is the help server. We actually didn't choose to install it, so it doesn't matter what we write here. And we're gonna hit apply, and the installation will start. Let's see. Okay, so what this message says here is that the service account that I configured doesn't have the permissions to run as a service. It's actually pretty simple to solve this. What you need to do, I'm going to show you how to solve this. You need to go to the local group policy. Let's see if I remember. I think Windows settings, security, local policies, user right assignments. Okay, so you have this thing here, log on as service. You need to add the service account that we provided to this group here, if I remember correctly. So let's see. Yep. Okay. So this might take a few minutes. I'm going to stop the video and we're going to get back when it's done. Alright, so our installation completed with a warning. I'm going to see what that is. Okay, so it just says that we have a pending restart here. I'm actually going to try to skip it because I don't think we really need it. So the first thing I always do when the setup is completed, I create shortcuts because Dynamics NAV has a lot of components to it. So I'm going to create a shortcut to the client, to the administration, and to the developer environment. What we need to do now is restore the demo database. This is the database that we're going to use. You can find it in the setup files under SQL demo database. We're going to go enter all those folders and you're going to find it here. This is the name, demo database nav. So we are going to copy it to the SQL server because we will need to restore it there. Okay. Yeah. So we'll copy it. Great. And we're going to head back to the SQL server. Okay. Now we're going to start the management studio and we need to restore this database. We're going to connect. Okay, so to restore the database, we're just going to click databases, restore database. You're going to click the device. You're going to browse for the file. So we copied it to see SQL backup. Here it is. So this is what we need. I'm going to change the database name to something a little more simple, which is NAV demo. This is also the name I gave during the setup, if you remember. So we're going to call it NAV demo. Yep, that's good. It's going to restore it to C, and that's it. So we're going to click OK. Now we need to give permissions for our service account to this database. So we will have to add it under the security node. We're going to create a new login. If you remember, I called the service account NAV SVC. This is the account that will be trying to access the database. We're gonna go to NAV demo, and we're gonna give it DB owner permissions, and you're gonna click OK. Alright, so we can close this, and we're going to get back to the NAV server. So we're gonna start the administration, the Dynamics NAV administration, and here you can see that our service is installed and is running. If you open it, you can see all the properties that we gave it during the setup. Okay, so here you have the credential type, you have the database name, you have the database, the SQL server name, and this is pretty much correct, so we're not going to change anything here. But if you do need to make changes, this is the place to do it. So we're going to close it, and we're going to try to start. Okay, so something here is not working. This is good. Errors are good. We're going to figure it out. So I'm going to go to the event viewer to see what the issue is. This is the best place you can look for a solution, or to be more precise, for the problem, and from there the solution. So we're gonna go to, let's see, no, we actually don't have any errors here. This is disappointing. Alright, so we're gonna try to figure it out ourselves. It's currently not ready service. Okay, so I'm going to start with a restart to the service, because we restored the database, so we might have some issues. We're gonna click restart. Okay, so what do we have here? Permissions issue. That's strange. We're gonna get back to the SQL server. Maybe we're gonna check again that I gave it the proper permissions. Okay, that's weird. I'm pretty sure I gave it the DB owner, but I'm going to check it later in the video. Pretty sure I did it. Let's get back here. I'm going to try that again. Okay, so this is actually a good message. It has absolutely nothing to do with the real issue, but I'm going to show you how to solve this. So what we need to do is load the license. So how do we do that? We're going to start the developer environment, the development environment. We're going to go to File, Databases. We're going to open. Now, in the server name, we're going to type our SQL server name. We're going to change here to Windows Authentication, and we are going to choose our database, the database that we restored previously. We're going to hit OK. Now, you can find the license file also in the installation in the same place that we have the demo database. It's right here. So yeah, this is it, Kronos FLF. So I'm going to copy it to my desktop. What we need to do here is, after we open the database, we're going to go to Tools, License Information. We're going to hit the Upload button, and we are going to upload the license file. So we're going to choose Open. You're going to get this message, and then usually I like also to click Change just to make sure. I'm going to upload it again, and then we can close it. Alright, so gonna try it again. Alright, that looks better. So we can see the company here. It's Kronos International. This is the demo database. We're gonna click OK. And we'll see if it works now. Alright, so we have NAV up and running. You can play around with it. I'm not going to show you how to use it because actually I'm not using it as well. I don't know. I'm just on the installation part. So it's working great. We're going to close it now. And now we're going to go to the second part, which is the web client. Okay, so the web client usually works out of the box after installation. What you want to do is start your Internet Explorer and just type HTTP, your server name, and 8080. Now this is the port we gave during the installation. We're going to hit enter. Alright, so this is good. So what it says is that we need to add the web server instance name, which in our case is Dynamics NAV 80, and web client. Great. So this is what we get. So basically this URL, you can give it to other people if people want to play around to see how it works, and it will be accessible from all the computers in your network. Obviously it depends on firewalls and things like that, but we're not going to get into it. And that's pretty much it. So this is the web client. We're going to close it. So what we had here was a very simple installation of NAV. We did not get into authentication methods, new databases creation, or companies, user configuration, and client installations, and really a lot of things. But this tutorial should get you started with using Dynamics NAV. It is important to say that this installation process can be used in a small production environment, but obviously you will need to create a new database, have proper licensing, etc. If you have any questions, please write them in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you would like to stay up to date, then please don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to see you in the next tutorial. Thank you for watching. Bye.